is never acceptable. Senator Booker.
That's really sobering information. I appreciate your comments, Mr. Chairman. And I appreciate some of your comments at the top of the hearing about how we are evolving as a society and understanding about a lot of the harsh penalties that came out of the so-called war on drugs need to be reexamined and relooked at. I'm really honored to sit before a bipartisan panel where you in many ways could set an example for our country about the need for us to come together across partisan lines and the terrible tribalism that seems to be gripping our nation, and begin to move more towards common sense and comedy. And I'm just grateful for all of you and your willingness to serve. Mr. Reeves, I'm most partial to you just because of your haircut. But I just want to ask two clarification questions to Ms. Wong and Ms. Murray. And Ms. Wong, just to start with, you're currently an assistant U.S. attorney at the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia. Thank you for your willingness to serve in such an important law enforcement role. And you're serving now as the Chief of Violent Reduction and Trafficking Offenses Section. You would continue to be employed by the Department of Justice in this role as a prosecutor while you hold this important position on the Sentencing Commission. And could you maybe, for a lot of people that might have some concerns, talk about what measures you might take to avoid what might be a perception of conflict, and then help to create whatever the reasonable wall is between your work on the commission from your daily work as a prosecutor? And do you believe that there are or might be some inherent conflicts of interests, given the commission's policies will have a direct effect on the cases that you're dealing with?
Thank you, Senator. Should I be fortunate enough to be confirmed to this commission, the role to which I've been nominated is by statute a part-time position. My hope would be to continue to serve as an assistant United States attorney if I am so able. But what I would stress, Senator, is that should I be confirmed, I would pledge to approach the work of the commission as my own person and not as an employee of the Department of Justice. And nothing about my experience as a prosecutor would preordain how I consider or tackle any particular issue. I would stress, of course, that while I'm very proud of the work I've done for the Department of Justice over the last 7 years, that I bring a well-rounded set of legal experience to the table. I've served on the defense side in private practice. I undertook numerous pro bono representations in criminal cases for criminal defendants. I also bring to bear my experience as a judicial law clerk on the D.C. Circuit and the Supreme Court, and also, of course, my service as an ex officio commissioner on the commission from 2020 to 2021. So I bring all those experiences to bear should I have the opportunity to serve.
And Ms. Wong, just from my own understanding, are there circumstances where there might be a conflict of interest between the two, dealing with an issue that might be in a case in controversy that you're involved in and your work on the Sentencing Commission?
Senator, I don't see a conflict any different from the judges that have served on the commission while continuing to adjudicate over sentencings or defense practitioners who continue to practice. But I would, of course, consider any kind of ethical issue on a case-by-case basis.
Because a judge's role is sort of to be a independent viewer of two sides that are, by their very nature of their job, advocating for positions. And so it is a little bit different than a judge. Am I correct?
Senator, I don't, as an AUSA, my interaction with the guidelines is typically a computation, much like what the probation officer prepares as to where, under a criminal history category and offense characteristics, a defendant appears. But what I can pledge to you is that should I have this opportunity, I would not prejudge any kind of issue based on my prior experience.
I'm grateful for your pledge. I'm really grateful. Ms. Murray, again, thank you for your willingness to be here and step forward for such an important role as well. I just want to focus in and give you a chance to maybe talk about a 2003 article where you equated people who agree that fetal homicide should be a crime and who also support a woman's right to have an abortion as, quote, saying that one person's humanity depends upon the judgment of others. You go on to say, quote, ever since the Holocaust, people have been a little wary of that sort of thing. And I'm just wondering if you might want to clarify, do you think it's appropriate to equate the Holocaust with people who support the right of a woman to access abortion care?
Oh, thank you so much, Senator. That's not what I was saying, or at least what I was trying to say. That's a student piece, as you know, that I wrote 20 years ago.
I didn't know that. My staff just gave me this quote. So
It's a piece I wrote in college, a short squib, and the idea was just that there was a
where'd you go to college?
Harvard College.
I haven't heard of that school. It's the
Massachusetts.
Stanford of the East. Continue, please.
It's a 4-year school.
It's a 4-year. Okay.
I was trying to draw out a sort of philosophical tension sometimes between the idea of supporting fetal homicide laws and then being pro late-term abortion. So the idea would be that the life of the child shouldn't depend on someone else's view of whether the child is wanted. It's, I think, really important that our humanity is not determined by what other people think of us. And the idea was that is a bad principle in general and a principle that was involved in other really bad things.
Right. And like me, I hope that my intellectual thinking on issues has evolved since I was in college. I don't know about you.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. And so, Mike, for the record, you want to say something. What would you say to people? This is obviously a big issue right now in the public thought and concern. We all have to find ways to give assurances to each other that in positions of power like you'll be in, that you'll be able to to separate your personal views perhaps from your duty and from your work. Do you want to say something in closing to those who might be concerned about that?
No, absolutely. Thank you. If I were so fortunate as to be confirmed, my guiding light in all commission work would be the law of the land. And, the law of the land is defined by this court, by this body, and also by the Supreme Court. And I would not see myself as bringing my independent policy views, other than certain evidence-based sentencing views coming directly from research, to that work. I would see myself as guided by this body and by other law of the land.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, I just want to say again, thank you to you. You and I have worked on issues around sentencing for a very long time. And I think that we live in a nation that is apart from the rest of the world in how much we throw people into prison for very long periods of time, how much it disproportionately affects Black and brown people, survivors of trauma, the addicted, as well as the mentally ill, as opposed to a nation that does the things that help people. We often put them in environments that hurt them more and have them be released from prison in ways that have them harm themselves or their community or end back up in prison. And so I just am grateful for your leadership on this and framing this conversation in a way that I hope can help empower the Sentencing Commission to do its job and move more towards a system not of retribution but of restorative justice.
Thank you very much, Senator Booker, and we'll continue that work together.
Thank you.
I have Senator Cruz has arrived, and we go from Democrat to Republican. I'll recognize him once he's seated, and then Senator Whitehouse.